All right, we'll call the meeting to order. Thank you all for being here tonight. We have the privilege of having a young lady with us tonight to lead us in the pledge. Tonight, the pledge will be led by Avery Picard. Avery is a fourth grader at Hart Elementary, where she's a part of the announcements crew. She has a passion for dance and ballet, and her favorite subject is math. She loves her family and hopes everyone can let their light shine every day. Thanks, Avery. If you would all stand and join her.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please stand and join me in saying the Texas Pledge. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to the Texas, one state under God and one and indivisible.
Avery, thank you so much. You did a great job. Thank you so much. Sure. Good job. All right, let the roll reflect. Everyone was present except for Miss Ann Smith. And we'll move right into our recognitions, and we'll call Principal Chris Mayfield.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Chris Mayfield. I get the honor of serving as principal at Lovejoy High School, and tonight we get to celebrate several different groups. The first one, actually, I don't think she has made it in yet, but Lindsay Hughes. Lindsay, are you here? There you are. Okay, great. You didn't check in. I was like, oh my gosh, so great. Lindsay, if you will come forward. We get to recognize Lindsay tonight. Right here. She gets recognized a couple of different times tonight, but what we do get to recognize first is that she was selected as a 2021 All-State Uil Journalism Staff Member. And just to give a little context about that process, students can earn this by amassing points through achievements at UIL journalism competitions and other state and national press competitions, and you have to be very successful and continue to get points and amass points until you actually can qualify for that. So it's my honor tonight to get to recognize Lindsay as a UIL All-State Journalism Staff Member. Congratulations. All right, we can do the picture. All right, my next set of recognitions really is for the performance of our students in their junior year when they took the PSAT test. And so the first group I want to talk about are our National Merit Semi-Finalists. And so to give you some context, in the junior year, students across the country get to take the PSAT and they get to participate in a scholarship competition. And what National Merit Scholarship Corporation does is they take those highest scoring students. So there'll be about there were about 1.5 million students who took that in their junior year, and they take the top really 16,000, and those are determined to be National Merit Semi-Finalists. And this year we had 10. And that's a very large number for the high school. And so we're really excited. So I'm going to call your names. If you guys who are National Merit Semi-Finalists will come up. I know not everybody could be here, but I do want to call everybody's name because it is such a great honor. So my National Merit Semi-Finalists, Kendall Carl. Austin Chapman. Jenna Garcia. Justin Larimer. Wayne Pan. Thomas Pottinger. Sanjeev Rajakumar. Sydney Thompson. Kevin Shu. And Holly Shui. Well, I knew some of them could not be here with us, and I know there are also some watching, so I want to make sure and recognize each one of them. Also get to recognize the next group, which are commended scholars. So I told you that 16,000 are really what amounts to the top 1% roughly are recognized as National Merit Semi-Finalists. The second and third percentile are recognized as what's called commended scholars or commendees. And so I've got a group of those that I get to recognize tonight. So as I call your name, come forward. Kai Campbell. Sydney Chapman. Caleb Colson. Jordan Day. Curtis Fales. Savannah Fanous. Ella Hursley. Kira Ho. Lindsay Hughes is back. Marissa Leibel. Amber Liu. Geneva Miller. Reagan Novotny. Chisholm Okorafor. Sebastian Ramirez. Madison Stutler. Chase Taylor. Dinah Thanakada. Jax Thompson. Alexander Urquhart. Eric Wang. Jonathan Zanzuri. Okay, let's get a pick. We have one last group to recognize. So also on that PSAT exam, College Board recognizes groups of typically underrepresented groups to really encourage them in their post-secondary education. And so I've got a couple of national recognized scholars through the College Board program. So College Board National African American Recognition Program, Alyssa Lane. Chisholm Okorafor. Geneva Miller. Kai Campbell. Catherine Knuckles. Michelle in Watalobi. Simi Fidel. Also, College Board's National Hispanic Recognition Scholar, Alexandra Willard. Annalisa Ritchie. Elena Paharik. Jenna Garcia. Catherine Knuckles. Marco Helvez. Marissa Libel. Natalia Duran de la Vega. Savannah Starr. Sebastian Ramirez. And our final group, College Board National Indigenous Recognition Program, Luke Thomas. And Savannah Starr. All right, I got you. Double break.
Dr. Tinsley.
have the privilege tonight of recognizing some of our school partners from the Collin County Sheriff's Department, the Fairview Police Department, the Texas Department of Public Safety, and then some of our own school marshals. This is for the work that they do with us and the support that we receive from these departments throughout the school year. You see them present at many of our events, and also with the recent incident that occurred during the homecoming dance, we want to recognize these individuals for their responsiveness and support as we work through that situation. So at this time, I'm going to announce there's about 5 of them here tonight. We have several on the list. 4, okay. If you will please come forward when I call your name so that we can recognize you and thank you for your service. Deputy Franklin Wilson. Deputy Matthew Polk. Officer Sean Tomlinson. School Marshal Chris Smith. And Lieutenant Mick Fitchell. And there are several that were not able to be here tonight because they're on duty. And so I want to go ahead and recognize these individuals. Lieutenant Robert Langwell. Sergeant Mark Zelgato. Captain Andrew Hatch. Assistant Chief Mitch Selman. Sheriff Jim Skinner. And DPS Trooper Cameron Hicks. Come on up, Chief. Come on. I know, but it's you too, Chief Selman. We appreciate everything you all do. Thank you so much.
Hi, good evening. We get the opportunity many times throughout the year to recognize new hires. And I say that we generally are very busy in the summer recognizing staff that we bring on. And sometimes depending on schedules, staff aren't always able to come in the summer or the beginning of the school year to be recognized. But it is part of our tradition as we bring them into the Lovejoy family to do a couple of things. It allows the community to be able to meet our new staff, they get the opportunity to meet our board members. We provide them with a pen, and normally if it was in the summertime, we use this for them to sign their contract that makes it official, but it also is a great opportunity for them to write their story when they're here in the district. So they do receive this. Normally they receive a chocolate covered apple. It's actually a really big deal. But my understanding, the air conditioning was out in the apple factory, and so we have fudge. So we'll have to make it up to you at another time, because it's actually a hot commodity around the chocolate covered apples. So I get the opportunity to bring up Sridevi Veerapan. And Sridevi is a BCBA, and a lot of times people have no idea what that is, and that's a board certified behavior analyst. And really they have the opportunity to work in the district and help support our staff and support students around learning social skills and regulation. Not only does Sridevi do a great job of working with our staff, but she also definitely works hands-on with our students. She and her husband moved to Texas from out of state, and so we were excited that they made the transition to Texas. She has 8 years experience. She actually has 2 master's degrees. One is in developmental psychology from the University of College of London. The other one is a special education master's from Purdue University, and she has jumped in with both feet. The other part that's really nice about her experience, she's also been an educator. So as she's giving recommendations and support in the classroom, she also has seen it from the teacher and educator side, which really makes it really relevant as she's looking at behavior supports for students. So we're definitely excited to have her. She's been here since before school started, but just working through scheduling conflicts, we were able to have her here tonight. So should everybody? I'm going to turn it over to Holly Haynes.
Good evening. I am Holly Haynes, the proud principal of Puster Elementary, and tonight it is my pleasure to introduce Mrs. Crystal Lusk. Crystal and her husband moved to Texas from Oregon over the summer. They moved Crystal's mother and her aunt from California, and they're all one big happy family here in Texas now, so she's had a lot of transition. We're excited to bring Crystal on as one of our special education teachers. Crystal also has 2 master's degrees. That's the theme of the night. Crystal graduated with her bachelor's in elementary and special education. She has a master's in autism spectrum disorder, and she just finished her master's in education in curriculum and instruction with a focus on trauma and resilience. So we are already seeing the benefits of her knowledge and expertise in working with our students at Puster. Welcome, Crystal. And I'll turn it over to Mr. Ray Winkler.
Hello, thank you. I'm Ray Winkler, the principal over at Sloan Creek Intermediate School. I have the distinct honor in introducing you to Penelope Heth, she goes by Penny. Penny's going to be teaching STEM for us, which is one of our flagship courses that we teach over at Sloan Creek. Penny is a graduate, and I'm ready for your reaction, by the way. Penny is a graduate of A&M. Yeah, so I thought, okay, good, okay. She told me, she said, you got to wait for people to do that. Okay, so anyway. And has worked many years as a camp counselor at Sky Ranch. I stopped by her room, and say, hey, I'm going to introduce you tonight. What should I say? And she said, you really should read my teacher feature. And outside of every teacher's, out of every classroom, there's like a little sign that has your picture on it. And so if kids want to know about you, they can read about you. And as I read it, I just started grinning ear from ear. And I do want to read it to you because it's really a special one. This is her teacher feature. Growing up, I always knew I was a kid that I always played school. Although when I went to college, I followed a different path and got a degree in nutrition. After working as a camp counselor and recognizing my true passion for connecting and investing in kids became a clear goal. To me, teaching was all I could think about. As far as landing in Lovejoy, I have Kent Messer and his boldness to thank. This is on our teacher feature, by the way. And so I just have to tell you the story. Mr. Messer was picking up his sons from a Sky Ranch, walked into the camp counselor kind of like gathering area and said, okay, raise your hand if you are interested in education. And like Penny's like a little hand, me, you know? And 3 or 4 weeks later, she's working here. She's fantastic. Our kids love her. I want to thank Mr. Messer for recruiting her out of the clutches of Sky Ranch. It was hard to get her out of here, and she is a wonderful addition to Lovejoy ISD. Penny Heth.
All right, our next item tonight, item 6, will be public comments related to agenda items for our agenda this evening. So just a few comments before we get going. Reminder that we have the right to change the order of the agenda. Each speaker will be given up to 3 minutes. If we have more than 10, we may shorten that. If at any time, in the opinion of presiding officer, the individual speaking or attempting to address a non-agenda item, we'll ask you to stop that. Public comments related to non-agenda items will be deferred until the end of the meeting. Disruptive behavior will not be tolerated in a meeting if after the provision of a single warning, the disruptive behavior continues. The disruptive individual may be escorted out of the meeting by district officials and/or law enforcement. It's a criminal offense for a person with intent to prevent or disrupt a lawful meeting to substantially obstruct or interfere with the ordinary conduct of a meeting by physical action or verbal utterance. Conduct defined by Texas Penal Code 4201 and board policies, BED legal and BED local. Failure to yield the podium at the conclusion of the time allotted to a speaker at public comment constitutes a disruption and will be addressed accordingly. Comments made to the Board of Trustees by meeting attendees or speakers outside of the designated public comment periods during a meeting constitute a disruption. We don't respond to public comments, just as a reminder. Specific factual information or recitation of existing policies may be furnished in response, but the board shall not deliberate or decide anything or any subject that is not included on an agenda item. The board may also refer to a speaker to a staff member in authority over an issue. For specific complaints or concerns, speakers are encouraged to utilize the district's appropriate grievance procedures and policies set forth in board policies, FNG local and DGBA local and GF local. The procedure outlined herein applies to all meetings called by the board. However, comments at special board meetings are limited to the agenda items only. The board does not discriminate against speech on the basis of any viewpoint. All right.
Mr. Owens, we have 3 public comments this evening related to agenda items.
Perfect.
The first speaker is Valerie Turnbow.
I'm short, but not that short.
Good evening, and thank you so much for your time. I'm Val Turnbow, and I've lived in this district just shy of 13 years. We have 4 sons, 2 graduates of Lovejoy, and 2 more at Lovejoy High School and Willow Springs. Today, I'd like to voice my concern on 2 items and provide you with praise on other in regards to our safety and security. First, the praise. We all need a little more of this, right? I'd like to thank the administration, staff, security, and especially the parents of Hart Elementary School for redirecting and following a safer traffic flow away from our street, Honeysuckle Lane. The start of the year was quite chaotic, and the carpool line extended quite a ways down our street, often blocking entrances and causing us residents to be concerned about the safety of our families. You heard our residents' concern and quickly came up with a resolution to reroute the carpool line to a safer situation for everyone. I do still believe more can be accomplished, and I ask the board to consider moving forward with utilizing the grassy, wasted triangular space in front of the school to widen the front parking so it can be used efficiently for your parents and for the local residents in that area, so they don't have to park on Estates Parkway for special events. Anyhow, we greatly appreciate those who saw an issue and came up with the solution. It is recognized. The next brings me to my second and third concerns regarding safety and communications. This past weekend, we had a terrible and tragic situation where a hoax of a mass shooting was said to happen at the homecoming dance. My concern is that the district did not communicate with parents immediately when this occurred. I'd like for the district to realize, even if it's a hoax or unsubstantiated, parents must know how to react immediately, and a telephone call would have been the best way to do so, not sending an email after 9 o'clock or a Twitter tweet. Many in our community are not on social media, and many do not review social media at night or emails. I'd like to know what happened to the automated school messenger phone system. You know, the one that used to call when the cross-country team won state and you wanted us to come celebrate by meeting them when their bus came in? That one. If the district would have called the parents as soon as possible, we would have been able to know what was transpiring and how best to respond and work with the district. We must do better in communicating emergencies to parents. You have only two things to do. One, provide an education to our students, and two, ensure their safety. By not communicating with parents, it made the situation worse and have left many parents concerned about what will happen with future emergencies. Please let us know how we can help to get school messenger back on queue so we are called and immediately notified. Thirdly, it is widely known now that there has been another failed communication, and this is communicating to the heart of Lovejoy, our teachers and staff, in regards to their salary. They were not adequately communicated with prior to engagement of their contracts, and they would not be seeing step increases this year. These people are the brain and heart of our district, and for them to find out weeks after school started and upon receipt of their first paychecks that they will not be receiving any increases and their benefits have increased, this leaves a very bad impression.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Tamara Sakuda.
Hey, board. How is everybody? All right, so you already are aware, and thank you, Ms. Turnbow. I appreciate your kind words that kind of got cut off, but we do appreciate it. As you're aware, last year was just a really rough school year for everybody. And we also are aware that kids come first this year, and I wholeheartedly agree. I have 171 students. I'm super excited to have them. They're amazing. I don't do this for the money, but when we found out we weren't even getting our step, as we all know, it was very, very disheartening. And I know that we are working very hard to try to fix that and amend that. But my other concern is, I think sometimes we lose the forest for the trees. We have teachers. I am one of a group of teachers. We've been here for a long time, have we not? Dollinger and I are like, you're 16 and I'm on 15. We have been here since the beginning. We love it here. We love the kids. We love the staff. I enjoy my students. But it's beginning to feel more and more like there's other things happening. And I hate to be mercenary, but at some point I have to look at my family. As you can tell, I'm not getting any younger. And so when I look around and other districts are paying more, they have smaller class sizes, they have different things for teachers to do. We haven't been able to go, we have not been able, as an English teacher, I've been able to go to conferences. I have 171 students. 60 of them have IEP, PST, or 504 plan, which is great. Bring them on. I love a challenge and I love working with kids that struggle. I was that kid that struggled when I was in school. And I swore I would never, ever let a student feel as stupid as some of my teachers inadvertently and sometimes intentionally made me feel. But it's getting harder and harder. And I know that there's not a school district in the country that pays teachers what they're actually worth. But I would really like the board to get creative and work with us and ask us. I had a great conversation with Katie last week. Thank you so much. It was awesome. One of the things I mentioned to Katie is when you need us to fix something or do something, it'd be really great if you would come to us first. We have a lot of answers on our campuses. And sometimes what we don't see, because y'all are super busy, everybody on the admin team at central office, sometimes you're busy trying to solve problems for us, but if you would just come and ask us, we can give you feedback. We can tell you how to fix instructional problems when our STAR scores are low. We can tell you how to help bring rapport and help when what teachers would need to stay, because it isn't just about the money, although it's partly that. But if you would come talk to us and come hang out with us, I don't know when the last time I saw someone from the red building come hang out with me during the day and just see day in and day out what we deal with. Mostly it's good. But there's a lot of minutia that happens, and maybe somebody can help us figure out how to get out of that. Anyways, I'm going to let y'all go, and I know there's another person that needs to talk, but I just wanted to say we are here as teachers supporting each other to help be problem solvers, but we need to feel some respect that you respect what we can bring to the table to help solve the problem. Maybe representation, not voting on the board, something, but we need our voice. I know Katie's working on that, but please listen to us. We do have a lot of answers because we're out there in the trenches every day. Thank you.
Homa Lewis.
Hi, I'm Homa Lewis, and I teach students at the high school. And so I'm here to talk about a laundry list. So prior to coming to Lovejoy, I worked for a larger school district, an international law firm, a private university, and a consulting firm. And at all those places, my voice was heard. I had opportunities to serve on committees, and the communication was great. When I started here at Lovejoy in 2012, there were two things that became apparent. Communication was poor, almost non-existent, and the expertise and experience of teachers were not utilized. So we've all been in situations where we've put up with irritants, and all of a sudden there's an issue that breaks the camel's back. And for us teachers, it was the lack of communication. And so here's my laundry list as a social studies teacher. In 2016, Bev Smith had to retire. And since then, we have not had a social studies curriculum coordinator at the Red Building. Social studies has 2 EOCs, 7 AP classes. We account for almost 45% of all the AP exams, and our ratings for niche and U.S. News and Report is based on our academics. And yet one of the biggest groups has no one to advocate and support the teachers at the Red Building. So here is my human geography textbook. This is actually a good copy. These are spad shaped. I don't even use them as a class set. Here's a world history textbook, also not in the best shape. Okay, great. I always like helpers. My atlases are from 2009. We don't even have enough for every teacher who teaches geography to have a class set. A few years ago, I asked for new atlases. Social studies wasn't even a line item on the budget, so we don't have any new ones. 2 weeks ago, there was a teacher group that were criticized for their low EOC scores and their instructional methods. Maybe that could be corrected if we had somebody to work for social studies. All of our professional development is presented as an afterthought unless a social studies teacher comes up with an idea and is willing to do the work. Our digital textbooks take about 3 weeks for our students to access, 3 weeks where we are trying to figure out how we're going to teach without having them use the textbook. The people in this district are amazing. The last couple of years, I had to deal with my mother's decline, and I could not have been better supported. The people in this district are not the problem. It's our priorities as an institution that need to be fixed. We quickly replaced the athletic director. We hired 2 positions at the Red Building this summer, and we resurfaced the athletic field.
Thank you, Helen. Mr. Owens, that concludes the public comments related to agenda items.
Thank you. And Mr. Collins, can I ask you to assist us with the invocation tonight?
Please join me in prayer. Heavenly Father, Lord, we come to you tonight just so thankful for all of our students, all of their families, all of our teachers and administrators and everyone that is part of growing and teaching and surrounding our kids with love and encouragement and helping them grow here in this district. Lord, we ask you to continue to help guide us, to help us through our deliberations, to provide the right environment for all those stakeholders within our community. Lord, we ask you to continue to keep us safe. We're so thankful that tonight we were able to recognize some individuals that represent a bigger and larger group of individuals that look over the safety and security of our students and our staff day to day. Lord, thank you for this. Lord, thank you for the opportunity for us to continue to work on behalf of all the families in our community. Please keep everyone here tonight safe on their travels home. All these things in your name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Mr. Collins. Item 8 tonight is our consent agenda. And I'd like to open that up and see if there's anything you all want to pull for further discussion.
Yes, Mr. Owens, I'd like to pull item F so that we can have further discussions and deliberations with regard to approval of the School Health Advisory Council. And I'd like to have that moved to the next workshop meeting for that purpose.
So your recommendation is to move item F to our board workshop?
Correct.
Okay, remove it from the consent agenda for approval.
And I'd like to move it to the workshop for discussion and deliberation, and then move it to the following board meeting for action.
Potentially, right?
Yeah, potentially.
Okay. Understood. Any other items to discuss? If we want to move forward, I would need a motion to approve the consent agenda and remove item F, move it to the board workshop.
So moved.
So moved, Amy. Second, Marvin. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Item 9. Item 9 is Ms. Cordell.
Thank you, Mr. Owens. We have our resignations for you. This is information only. An updated list of those resignations can be found at your place.
Item 10, Dr. Tinsley, report on safety and security.
Hello, I have Casey Littlefield here with me to assist with this presentation. He is our lead school marshal and is also the school marshal assigned to the high school. What we're going to revisit tonight is a review of the LHS homecoming dance and give some information that regarding the incident. On Saturday, September the 18th, toward the end of the dance, there was a conversation among students attending the dance that was misinterpreted by other students, which resulted in a rumor spreading about a threat to the school. In addition, some social media posts were causing fear and anxiety in our students, parents, and community, understandably. We, with the support of the Collin County Sheriff's Department and our staff, a thorough investigation was conducted, resulting in determining that there was never a substantial threat. In fact, there was no threat made. Then the following Monday, the LHS staff conducted an after-action review of the incident, allowing the team to analyze what happened, why it happened, and how we can be better in the future with this. So I'm going to allow Casey to talk a little bit about the actions of our staff, law enforcement, communications, and some reflection that we had regarding the incident.
Thank you so much. My name is Casey Littlefield. I'm lead school marshal for Lovejoy ISD, and I do represent the high school. That is the campus that I'm assigned at. So a little bit about Saturday night's response. So first and foremost, again, we want to thank our law enforcement partners, and we want to thank School Marshal Chris Smith for being on site and responding very quickly. We have a great relationship with our law enforcement partners, and they were able to get there very quickly and take action. So I do want to thank them. In terms of our board and cabinet, I just personally want to say thank you for the support that we receive. I've been here this is my 4th year, and I can tell you that I am receiving my team is receiving a tremendous amount of support in way of safety and security, and that is helping us to align ourselves with the mission of Lovejoy to become the best and brightest school district. So thank you so much for what you guys do. Our administration team at the high school acted very quickly Saturday night. It was very challenging. I will tell you, I've had a lot of conversations this week. I've had conversations with school administrators, teachers, parents, students, and some have been bad, but some have been very good. I can tell you that our school administrators are the best in the business. There's 5 school administrators at Lovejoy High School that I'm very, very thankful that they are on that campus each and every day. They did a tremendous good for the safety of our students and our teachers. And again, I've had a lot of conversations this week with Principal Mayfield, and he has given a lot of insight, and he's given me a lot of great information and feedback from the event that happened Saturday. So I'm very thankful to have that administration team on our campus. To our teachers and staff, we know Saturday was challenging. We know that sometimes it was stressful and overwhelming, but I will say that I feel very confident in our staff's response Saturday night, and I'm very thankful to have the staff members that were giving up their time to be there on a Saturday to attend that dance and work that event. So thank you very much to our teachers and staff members. And then parents and students. So I want to thank you for the feedback that I've gotten this week. I know that it was a challenging night Saturday, but I'm here as a representative of the school marshal team to calm each and every person in this room. I need you to understand that we are here, we are supporting you, we are behind the scenes working diligently for our community. Our school marshals are some of the best in the business, and our school marshals give a lot of time and effort. So a lot of times we see our school marshals on our campus during the day, and what we don't often realize is those same school marshals are attending events throughout our district all evening long. They're away from their families, and they're really giving great work to our district. So I can't thank them enough, and oftentimes they don't hear it enough. So to my school marshal team, thank you for what you do. We learned a lot of lessons this week. So we know that communication is a big one for us. We know that information moves quickly, and we know that we're going to have to move just as quickly as the information moves. We understand that. And I can tell you that we are working diligently behind the scenes with our information and our communications. There are a lot of great things we are doing, and you will see the fruits of our labor. And so I need everyone in this room to know and understand that we are committed, and we feel very confident that the right people are in place, and we will do our very best because we know the most important thing is to protect your students each and every single day. So.
So Casey already mentioned some of the things that we're moving forward with. And again, it's the after action review and the discussions that we're having after this event are very helpful in us to refine our practices and ensure that we're getting the information out, communication out in a timely manner, but it's also accurate information to you, and then responding appropriately as well. We do have a standard response protocols that we have in place here in the district. They've been in place. We practice those through our drills. We practice them. We have communication with that. So the goal is that it becomes very simple and natural for those involved to follow those response protocols. As you guys have seen, we really value our partnerships with our local law enforcement, and they are always responsive to our needs, and their presence matters to us in our schools and our events. We also have some excellent resources such as the Texas School Safety Center, which provides training, tools, and support for students, staff, and parents, and we will be partnering with that center. In fact, Mrs. Cordell and I were able to attend a session over the weekend with the School Safety Center, and there's some incredible resources that we truly feel are going to benefit our school community. And then just that continual, as Casey mentioned, that continual communication, protocol, safety, and security procedures we're going to constantly review and refine. I personally want to thank the Marshall team. I've had the privilege of working with this team, and they're the best. You need to feel very, very confident and secure in what they are doing for our staff and our community and our schools. So again, I want to thank the Marshals. So I do want Casey to talk a bit about what, just an overview of the district, what a Marshall's role is as a district level support, and also what our campus level support may look like with the Marshals.
So as a lead school marshal for the district, many of you may wonder what we do behind the scenes, but really we constantly and consistently support our cabinet members, our directors, and looking at how can we enhance our safety and security programs at every level. So whether it's the school day and it is in relation to our drills, how do we make drills more interactive for our students? How do we get students more involved? To maybe it's an event that's happening on a Friday night. So football security operations is a biggie for us right now. So we're doing a lot of things behind the scenes weekly in regards to our district. So although a school marshal may be assigned to a particular campus, there's a lot that goes on in terms of how we support the district. I'm currently the district's emergency management coordinator. So really what I'm looking at behind the scenes is a lot of things like safety and security audits. It's drilling notifications, drilling documentation. It could be in relation to, again, emergency management and training. So just a lot that goes on behind the scenes. And then we have our school marshals that are assigned to a campus every single day. So at the high school, you will see me at the campus every day. So we do a lot of things in terms of supporting our bus and our bus intake and our bus exiting at the end of the day. We do a lot in terms of supporting our principals with any sort of investigation or inquiry into such at the high school, like vehicle incidents, vehicle accidents. So just a lot that goes on in terms of what we're doing day in and day out and how we're functioning as a safety and security department. We are well-rounded. We're not just, we are a protective function, and that's why we're there. But I can tell you, we are a well-rounded organization, and we have our hands in a lot of the pie. So.
Do you have any questions from the board regarding? Okay.
Curious, just specific to Saturday night, I know there was a lot of speculation, and obviously it was found not to be a credible threat. But what was the environment like in the dance? Did kids start seeing something, and then all of a sudden they're texting their parents? So I know there's a lot of that went on. So maybe just give us a little overview of kind of the environment from the kids and staff during that actual. I don't know what the timeline window was, but.
Yeah, so I think you nailed it right on the head. There was a lot of communication going on behind the scenes and a lot of misinformation. So high schoolers are a very challenging age because at the fourth grade level, if we want to keep fourth graders inside of a building, it's pretty easy to accomplish, right? At the high school level, it's sometimes different, and that's okay because high schoolers oftentimes think outside the box and they start thinking in terms of why am I being asked to do something maybe that I don't feel comfortable with. So if you're hearing a lot of that miscommunication and misinformation, I think it created a lot of stress amongst our students, and a lot of questions were asked of why we were taking the protocol that we took. I will tell you that it was a quick time frame that it took to get things in control. I've talked to our law enforcement partners that responded. I've talked to our school administrators, and there was a bit of time that it took to get things kind of in order, but I can tell you our teachers stepped up to the plate, our administrators stepped up to the plate, and at the end of the day, we've gotten great feedback in our response from our law enforcement partners, and I've gotten a lot of great feedback from the parents that responded in terms of picking their child up.
Casey, can you address a little bit the difference between a lockdown and a lockout?
Yeah, I think the best way to describe it, I give this analogy to parents and students. So if you can imagine a secure would be like it raining outside, right? So it'd be something in which we would bring students and staff members inside because there could be a potential threat in the parking lot. There could be a potential threat in the neighborhood. It could be a rabid dog that's running around trying to bite students in our parking lot. We may bring them inside so that we can keep them away from that threat. I always talk about lockdown being compared to a hurricane. Like a lockdown is the worst of the worst. A lockdown means that there is an active threat inside of a building, and we're going to take action to put our students and staff members in a position to barricade the doors and to get out of sight from that potential threat, and then to take action if they need to take action to help mitigate that threat. So again, one is rain and one is a hurricane, and if the verbiage starts getting mixed up, then you start getting those questions about, well, what are we doing here versus why aren't we doing this or that? And I think it's important to understand the language and secure our standard response protocols have been put in place specifically because of that. There has been instances in the past where law enforcement officials will respond and even they will be confused about the difference in a lockdown and a secure. So the verbiage has been changed over the years. So if you guys hear the term lockout, I always encourage people to stop using that verbiage. It is a secure, and we all do that every single night. If you think about what you do in your homes every night, you're watching TV, you're sitting on the couch eating popcorn, and all of a sudden you may hear something outside, so you go and you lock your doors. You make sure all your doors are secure, and then you conduct business as usual inside. And so oftentimes when a secure is put into place, we're conducting business inside the school as we typically would. We're just trying to keep people away from a potential threat that could be outside. So very significant in the difference in response.
As we have the problems, homecoming obviously was a well-attended event, over 1,000 kids, which is amazing. When we have an event like that, we have kids both who attend our schools and who don't. So what adjustments, maybe not all of them, but I guess adjustments to how we staff and how we handle those events in the future to handle that type of crowd? Comments about that?
Yes, I think that when looking at this, we have reevaluated that we may have more of our school marshals on site when they are larger events. Chris Smith was our marshal there at that time, but that's certainly an area that we see that we need to increase our presence.
Okay. Mm-hmm. And then communication has been brought up a couple of times. I think we identified some technicalities in school messenger. Can you address those for clarity?
Yes, we had some limitations on school messenger because of with the application, it had been set to where we could not send out information past 9 p.m. So when we were notified and we were ready to send that information out, we were blocked with doing that. So we went through constant contact, but that has been remedied at this point. So there is not a block on the time.
So that would be fixed pretty easily.
Correct. It's already been corrected. Mm-hmm.
And then I think communications wise internally amongst our marshals, amongst our administration, we're doing some things there.
Absolutely. We are putting in some systems to where we can, the communication to where we are able to communicate as a team. So whoever is dealing with the actual situation, for example, Mr. Mayfield, he would have been calling into this team and the team would have been providing support off-site while he was providing support on-site. So we're going to be doing some training with our cabinet next Monday as well as our principal team.
Okay.
We're implementing an incident conference bridge.
Yes, it's called an incident conference bridge is what we're going to be doing. So we'll have the capability to all be on a call and then bring in for example, if we see that we need to bring a nurse onto the call or someone else onto the call, we'll have that capability. But we do have a core team that will be on those calls.
Right.
Dr. Tinsley, I think there was some discussion also about maybe briefing volunteers or staff ahead of time as to certain eventualities.
Yes, I'm going to let Casey talk a little bit about, we're already doing that to some extent, but that was part of our debrief that probably needs to occur before an event like homecoming. So I'll let him explain that.
Yeah, so absolutely. So we've definitely recognized that there's some opportunity with larger events that are not athletic related. I can tell you all for a Friday night football game, there is a lot that goes into the planning of the security of that Friday night game. I spend early in the week meeting with administrators, athletic administrators, going over a plan. I spend pre-event on Friday nights, partnering with our law enforcement, our fire, our emergency management teams that are going to be on site Friday night. And so the opportunity for us is that we've simply got to get better at doing that for a lot of events, and it's challenging. We have a lot of events at Lovejoy. We really do. And so for us, we have to determine what are our threat levels and how are we going to decide what event makes it onto that list where we have to do the pre-work during the week. And so certainly for our big events, that's easy to do. But in terms of thinking about just a regular ordinary event, we're going to have to get better at our communication. And I think we're already on track to do that. I've had a lot of conversations this week, and we've got a lot of things in the works. But I'll tell you, a lot of that comes back from the feedback from our parents and our staff members. And so again, I'm in a position where I am always willing and open to take feedback. And I don't care who it is. I don't care if it's from a parent, a student, if it's from a police officer. It doesn't matter. I'll take feedback all day long, and I'll try to improve everything that we're doing. And I think we're doing a lot of great things that you'll see coming up. So.
I just want to comment that obviously all of us are super grateful that nothing happened, and what an opportunity and a blessing to be able to get our minds around this in a real way now. And so thank you for all y'all are doing. We're so grateful.
Thank you. Okay. Item 11, report on and consideration of approval of supplemental pay for returning teachers, nurses, and librarians for loss of unbudgeted step increase.
Thank you, Mr. Owens and board. We already heard from two of our very valued teachers this evening on this topic. To give a little historical information, on September 15th, which is the first day of the checks for the new school year, our returning teachers, nurses, and librarians, when they got their digital paycheck, they had a significant level of concern because they were not anticipating a freeze in the steps, which we have displayed up here for you all. And so I spent several days having conversations with many of our staff members, also digging into some of the budget recommendations and decisions that were made in the spring. And through that process, identified that this had not been clearly communicated to our teachers, nurses, and librarians. There had been awareness among administration that this was part of the proposed budget, as evidenced by some communication that took place internally at the beginning of May. That communication took place between Finance and Human Resources, and then this document that we have displayed was posted publicly on our Human Resources website. And of course, that's a passive posting, and the only people that really look at our Human Resources website are people who are looking to maybe apply with Lovejoy ISD. Our current staff is not going to go out there and look at this. But you'll notice that it even would have been very difficult to tell, even if they had looked at this, because if you look, step 0 and 1 are on the same row. And that is the only indication on this document that would indicate that those steps are being frozen. I also went through and did a little historical dive into the administrative budget presentations this spring on the budget reductions that were being proposed to you to address the budget shortfall. And in none of those presentations, in none of that documentation, did I ever see the freezing, the proposal to freeze steps for teachers, nurses, and librarians. This was, in fact, officially put into place, however, because this document was included in the compensation plan that was approved in the middle of June. Again, this document, though, would have been part of, I believe that document is 40-some pages. Again, the only indication without it being pointed out would have been that 0 and 1 being on the same row. And so in the conversations I've had with our staff, as I said, individually I've talked with our staff. I've gone out and had a conversation with every one of our faculties. I've gone to every campus, had a conversation with our staff, also answered any questions that they might have about the situation. And it's obviously very concerning to us because we would never want our very valued employees to feel the way that they did when they opened that digital pay stub on the 15th. They are so highly valued, and compensation, of course, feels very personal because that's the way that we take care of our families. That's our livelihood. And we will never be able to monetarily compensate our staff on the level that they are valued and for the level of work that they do for our students. But what they absolutely deserve from us is forthright, proactive communication. We are putting some things in place in the future to ensure that happens. I am forming a teacher superintendent communication council. There will be 3 teacher representatives from each of our campuses, And we will meet, and the primary focus of that time together is for them to let me know what's on their hearts and minds so that we can make sure as a central office administration, we are being responsive to their needs and that we are creating conditions, making decisions, and allocating resources in a way that supports them in doing their very best work for our students. We are also going to be forming a financial futures committee, and more information on this will be coming. We're going to get real tangible here soon with dates and that kind of thing. We will absolutely have teacher and staff representation on our financial futures committee, as well as parent and community members as well. And these are the type of topics that we're going to talk about. We will dig into compensation. We will look at compensation in area districts. We'll also look at compensation as it relates to districts that are of comparable size, as well as the varied conditions in those different districts in terms of what some of the responsibilities and teaching schedules of the teachers are. So we will very much invest in proactive communication. You can also expect from us in the spring, as far as addressing this, so this does not occur again, that in the spring we will proactively be having public conversations at our board workshops, anticipating what we see coming in terms of teacher retirement system percentage changes, which unfortunately we don't control, as well as anything we see forthcoming with insurance premiums, and then of course keeping everyone informed both internally and externally regarding compensation. Another change that we are putting in place, you'll recall that I spoke to you all about this at a previous meeting in regard to a reorganization, and that reorganization is very much designed to promote proactive both internal and external communication. So we have an open human resources director position, and we are reorganizing that position to be an executive director of human resources and communication. The other component of that is that individual will sit as a part of cabinet and be in those regular cabinet meetings, as well as a part of our board workshops and board meetings. I think by having this individual at the table, it will also provide another support and level of accountability to making sure this communication happens. This evening, we are recommending that we address this concern, and the way we are recommending we address that is providing our returning teachers, nurses, and librarians the full amount of the step increase that would have taken place in a supplemental pay that would be issued on November 19th. That amount comes to about $126,000. I believe we have the exact amount there for you, $126,028. What questions can I answer for you?
Well, we, as a board, obviously voted not to increase pay levels. Where did the communication, so obviously I wouldn't have known, looking at this document, that we weren't going to give a teacher who was returning for their second year the compensation. So where did the communication come from that said, where was that coming from? Because we as a board, or I was unaware that we were doing this.
Right. I have not seen any documentation of that being presented by administration in the spring to you all. If you look back in the presentations, there are several lists of the things that are being cut or that are taking place in regard to the budget to address the shortfall, and this is not listed anywhere. The only two places that it would be seen is, as I said, this document was posted in early May on the Human Resources website, and then this page was included in the compensation plan. But you're exactly right. The only thing that would have let people know that there was a change there is that 0/1 being on the same row.
For the benefit of the community, can you explain a little bit what a step is? And what that really means in terms of compensation?
Yes. The only three categories of employees that we have on steps are our nurses, teachers, and librarians. And this is a common practice throughout the state. And this is a way to compensate for experience. So unless action is taken regarding freezing of steps, what typically would happen is a teacher, nurse, or librarian, as they move up a year in experience, their compensation, as you can see on this document, would increase slightly based on that year of experience increase.
So it's an experience increase that's sort of automatic as long as we approve that those monies are there for in the budget.
Exactly.
And so explain a little bit from your words what it meant for this not to change, right, to be frozen, and why that caused a reduction and a little bit of a surprise. We understand the miscommunication.
Right. So you want impact?
Yeah.
Is that what you're looking for? Okay, absolutely, absolutely. So when we look at impact, and this is going to be average range, step 0 through step 10, we had about 58% of our returning teachers, nurses, and librarians who were impacted. That monthly amount for that freeze would have been a $43 decrease than what they were expecting, and a $518 difference annually. Step 11 through 20, that was about 28% of our returning teachers, nurses, and librarians. Monthly amount, $32. Total amount, $379. Step 21 through 30, about 14% impact from those groups. $52 monthly, $619 annually.
And then on top of those impacts, I guess the legislature increased the TRS mandatory contribution from 7.7% to 8%.
That is correct.
And is that done by TEA or is that done by the legislature, or both?
That is both
Okay.
situation.
And then in addition, they got hit a third time with respect to insurance premiums going up as well.
So process-wise, do we have a process going forward to, the step is one thing, the increases in these expenses, how does that get communicated to the teachers so they know what that looks like?
That is a great question. What will happen in the spring is there will be proactive conversations at board workshops as we're getting information about any potential changes in TRS, any potential changes in insurance premiums. Those will be communicated at board workshops. That piece of information will also be brought to our Financial Futures Committee. We will make sure that we are sending our staff and our community updates on both of those things so that we bring them along as we have the information, then as we start considering recommendations, and then certainly when decisions are made.
What's the timing on that each year, like in terms of renewal of benefits? When will we, like what month of the year typically are we up for? Do we have a quote on what the premiums will be for the next year?
Unfortunately, we didn't get that till late June this year. That's typically late June, early July is when we see our increases from TRS in terms of healthcare for our employees. So that would be a little bit delayed. We try to get some indicators from them on what they think may happen, but we really don't know until they issue their rates. In fact, it is kind of a super quick timeline to get the benefits hub set up for employees so they can get everything done. But however, the TRS contribution increase is actually already known, that piece for next year. I appreciate you going and having these conversations to try to clear up as much as you can. For me, I'm speaking for Amy, not for, this has been one of the most upsetting things for me as a board member. I serve on this board on behalf of our teachers and our staff, and for this to have happened, and I know some people don't believe we didn't know. You're not hearing. It's very upsetting. And so I publicly apologize. We would have never, this is not our heart. This is never our intention. And so I just want to say that on behalf of Amy Smith. I know it's the heart of this board. We would have never intentionally done any of this without any kind of conversation around it, for sure.
Yeah,
so I just apologize that any of this has happened.
We specifically approved no raises. We didn't specifically approve this. So I'm excited to fix it, and I'm really kind of pissed it happened.
Yeah.
So. Yeah.
All right.
Need a motion?
I move to approve the recommendation of the administration that the Board of Trustees authorize a supplemental pay increase as described to cover the loss of step increase for returning teachers, nurses, and librarians. And it's my understanding that supplemental pay will be issued on November 19th, 2021, and cover the full annual step amount. Is that right?
Yeah, I second that.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Item 12, consider approval of a memorandum of understanding for third-party testing for commercial driver's licenses.
Okay, I'm back to talk about
All right,
transportation
welcome
again.
back.
As you know, the district has been actively recruiting bus drivers, and part of our recruitment efforts have been to advertise that applicants, if they do not have their CDL license or their commercial driver's license, that we will provide the training and opportunities for testing to secure those licenses. The reason that I'm coming forward with a recommendation to engage with the third-party testing group is that because what we find sometimes at some of the state testing centers, the wait time can be up to 6 to 8 weeks. So for example, if we bring a new driver on board, we do the training for 3 to 4 weeks, and then we have to wait another 6 to 8 weeks for testing. That's putting us out several months before we can get that driver on a bus. So what we would like to do, we feel like that by engaging in this third party, that we can schedule our testing within 5 to 7 days versus possibly 6 to 8 weeks. And so what we will do is it will always check dates with our state testing centers, because that's going to be our least expensive route to go with testing. But if we find that there's a delay on getting the testing done, then we would like to engage with this third party testing. And that fee will be $150 that we would pay to the district that we're recommending engaging with. The Frisco ISD is a testing provider. And what I provided for you there is that their MOU regarding us engaging with, for them to allow us to send our drivers over there to be tested.
So quick notes, we're going from 6 to 8 weeks to get a person tested for a CDL to 5 to 7 days.
It could.
And the economic impact is 150 to 5 to 7.
150 in addition to the testing, which can range from a testing center anywhere from $50 to $100. And again, we'll try to schedule it there first, but if we see that there's going to be a delay, we would send them over to Frisco.
Okay. I appreciate Frisco being willing to enter into this agreement with us to support us in this way. It's very helpful.
So just for example, right now we have 3 new drivers, and 2 of them we're about ready within the next week or 2 to send to be tested, to engage in testing. So
I move that we approve this and get it rolling.
Motion, Mr. Collins. Second, Marvin. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you so much.
Thanks for doing that.
Item 13, consider approval of the 21-22 board governance norms, protocols, and operating procedures. Ms. Cordell?
At the workshop last time, we brought you a draft of the 21-22 board governance norms, protocols, and operating procedures for your review and your feedback for changes. Those changes have been incorporated into this document, and we are presenting it for your consideration of approval.
Questions, comments? Kind of been through it.
Yeah.
I move that we approve the 21-22 board governance and norms, protocols, and operating procedures as presented.
So moved. Marvin? Second, Jason. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. All right. You're up again, Ms. Katie. Consider approval of the annual board calendar.
Yes, board. We have the annual board calendar for your review and consideration of approval. We presented a draft to you at the workshop last time. You'll note that there is a change on the board activity calendar this year. We have our board workshops as well as our regular meetings indicated on here. And you'll recall that as much as possible, we want to bring forward proactively to you items at workshops so that you have the time for that public consideration, conversation before we are moving to action. This calendar serves as a outline for what is coming in the spirit of transparency.
And this is posted on the website too, correct?
It will be once it's approved.
Well, I appreciate the detail in the outline. Very helpful. Questions, comments?
I'll move that you approve we approve the annual board calendar.
So move, Mr. Collins.
Second.
Second, Mr. Wood, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. All right. Cabinet reports.
Recently, we sent out a socioeconomic form that we are asking all of our families to complete regardless of socioeconomic needs. And this is normally a form that we would probably want to send out at the beginning of the year enrollment. So looking at the 22-23 school year, this most likely is going to be included in that, with that information that our parents receive. We include this information when we submit information for our October 29th snapshot date, which we look at our enrollment. And it also, the information that we collect on this also impacts our state and federal fund allocations. And I've listed some of the programmings that it could impact regarding programming, the pre-kindergarten programming, early education allotment, the college career and military readiness allotment, national school lunch programming, which most people are probably familiar with, our state compensatory allotment, and our Title I. And then it also provides opportunities for students who may be eligible for some additional financial support as well. So just wanted you to be aware that we've sent that out. We've offered with some feedback from some of our parents, rather than just a paper form, parents now also have an opportunity to submit it online.
Do you know how many have entered it so far?
This morning, we had, Ms. Lessner said there were over 500 that she's received thus far, and these went out last week. Most of them went out last week, so we're hoping, I was in my office today and I heard a parent come in and bring one in, so we're hoping we're going to have, we have some lead time. We're trying to get as many in prior to the October 29th date.
This area can be somewhat of a challenge, particularly in our community where there is not typically a high level of socioeconomic need, which then can present the challenges to families sometimes with availability of that information. And so we want to make sure that we have this information out there for any of our students and family that may need it. And just a reminder that this also can apply if someone has a change in circumstance.
I would imagine there's a fair amount of reluctance to complete this form.
I've received some questions that, and if parents elect not to, that's their choice, and we give them that option that they can note that they prefer not to provide the information.
Okay. And just for the benefit of the community, the parents can fill out the information, but whether you put down a range or a specific income level, that's certainly optional, correct?
Correct.
Good question.
Thank you.
All right, I wanted to give you guys an update. We have a dyslexia training center really for teachers that started in June of 2020, and dyslexia definitely is a area that continues to grow in Texas. It's a little bit unique. In Texas, it does not fall under special education. A lot of other states, dyslexia does fall under special education. There are some changes that are coming down in the law as far as how we're evaluating for dyslexia. It's to be determined. But we do know that finding quality, they're called CALTs, Certified Academic Language Therapists, they're really hard to find. A lot of the therapists can actually make pretty good money in the private sector. And so coming into the school, sometimes it is a pay cut. So as a district, we saw the need to open up our own and work through an accreditation process to be able to train therapists not only internally, but also outside as a revenue generator. And so the candidates are provided a 2-year program. It's 200 hours of direct training, and then they're required the 700 practicum hours, 10 video observations, and then they're working through a certification through the Academic Language Therapy Association. Our first cohort group was in June of 2020. It was a little bit unique. That was in the thick of COVID, so everything was remote. And the 2 therapists that have been integral in the training center are 2 of our own. It's Heather Fisher and Susie Powell. And they worked very diligently with 11 therapists. We even had 2 cohort members from Michigan, as well as other surrounding Texas school districts who are also in need of trained therapists. What happens, you have your first intro year, and then the second year is your advanced. So in June of 2021, when our first cohort group finished their initial training, they started their advanced, we actually started another initial group, and there were 6 that were in that particular class. So we're excited. In May of 2020, our first group will be our graduates, and they sit, it's a licensure exam that they're able to sit for to become a certified academic language therapist. The other piece that is of benefit to the district will actually start in June of 2022 to begin our accreditation process. And so really we've been gathering information along the way. There's a lot of documentation that's required of the actual therapist and their training, their practicum hours, and then the oversight by our 2 CALT therapists that are running the program. And so we'll go into a submission process through the MSLEC board and work on finalizing our accreditation. So it's pretty exciting in the world. Actually, Ms. Sakuda, although she didn't get the opportunity to go through our program, it was her choice. She's doing some of her practicum hours here in district that's supporting students who are needing that level of support. We've had that theme all night about just the importance of taking care of our staff, and one of the things that we do each year is provide staff wellness opportunities. We actually recently just had on-site opportunities for our staff. They come to each of the campuses, and if they want to receive a flu shot, a B12 shot, or a COVID vaccine, or a booster, they were able to do that. And so it's nice because our staff aren't having to leave and take off and use their time to do that. It's offered in the morning, so they're able to get that taken care of before they start taking care of students. We will have additional dates that are coming for additional boosters if staff want to participate in that. We're looking at December and January dates to be able to provide that support for staff. And last but definitely not least, our health and safety measures, and definitely we monitor as a group. I talked about this, actually our whole group talked about this at our last board workshop, that we're monitoring COVID cases and the data daily to help make any decisions that need to happen within the district. We definitely have seen that recent trend that we see a decline in cases. I believe I shared at the workshop that on 8/31 was our largest student number, which was 76, and that's still the case. On 8/27, our largest number of staff that were COVID positive was 13, and that's still the case. So we are seeing some positive news on the sign of COVID cases. Testing kits. I think I also shared at the workshop, it's been another unique opportunity. I shared that I had a call from the National Guard that said, yes, Lovejoy ISD, you signed up to get rapid kits, And we thought they were coming, and the National Guard said, nope, they're not coming. FEMA halted them. So we said, okay, well, what are we going to do? We were told that the Department of State and Health Services has another grant that we are in for that's $438,000 that we're able to use particular vendors that have been approved by TEA to be able to obtain kits. So we are moving in that direction, working with vendors, trying to get things up and running. As you can imagine, most districts in the state of Texas everyone's contacting them, so they're pretty inundated with communication, because the other piece that TEA put out is if a staff member has been close contact with an individual that's COVID positive and they're not symptomatic and choose to stay on campus, the district is required to test periodically. And so again, to meet that criteria, having test kits in district is important. Well, last week, at the end of the week, I get a call from a delivery driver that says, I'm looking for you, where are you at? Because I have a delivery for you. And they're the test kits that we originally were told that FEMA said we're not getting. So they did come in district. We are working through a process with the campuses to make sure that we get a process in place to be able to meet the criteria that TA has asked us to do around testing staff periodically that have had exposure to a close contact and they're not symptomatic. We're also looking at a couple other grants that's through the Department of State and Health Services. There's one that will be coming out in October that the district can apply for. Right now, based off the information that we've received, some supplies for cleaning materials that we should be able to get reimbursement for PPE equipment, potentially for vaccine outreach. TA was a little bit vague because they're still working through the process side of it, but we will be looking at applying for the grant. And it does allow us to look at expenditures back from May of 2021. So those are nice because we have had expenditures around COVID and PPE and cleaning items, as well as some of the ventilation pieces. We're adding air filtration, additional air filtration units in our nurses' clinics. Each clinic has a sick room and a well room, and so we're wanting to continue to add those particular supports in place for them. There's one other grant that Region 10 has access to, and it is a nurse grant. When we have looked into that right now, they're targeting districts that do not have nurses on their campuses to be able to pay the salary to have nurses to be able to support the work that's going on around COVID. Our nurses are doing a tremendous job of not only handling all of the situations that are coming in that's maybe symptomatic for potential COVID, but the day in, day out medication bumps, lumps, and needs, they are working tirelessly to take care of students on the campus. And so not sure if we will qualify for anything right now, it doesn't sound like, but we'll keep you guys posted as we get more information. And last but not least, we are working in collaboration with our Lovejoy Council PTO. And just a historical piece, many years ago there was a SAGE group, and that stands for Special and Gifted Education, and it's a nice opportunity for a parent-led organization to support with the district around resources for families that have students who may receive services through special education, through gifted education, and we do have students that receive services through both. And so it's a nice opportunity to bring this group back around the table. Each PTO will have either a chairperson or a contact at each campus that will be their SAGE contact, and they'll be working in collaboration with the administration and campus principals for resources to be able to support any of the needs on the campuses, helping parents to connect with one another, a nice resource for parents who are walking that. Maybe it's the first time that, for example, that their child just now qualifies for special education and they want to walk it with a parent who's had that same experience. And so it's a nice connector piece to communicate and work together. Casey Havens has been very integral in getting this back up and running because it is a parent-led component, but definitely partnering with the district. We are looking at an upcoming coffee to be able to kind of kick it off and get the information out. But if you are interested from a community perspective, definitely the PTO presidents at each of the campuses will be a good contact.
Thank you.
Good evening. It's a great opportunity to share really some highlights from the Curriculum and Instruction Department. It's always a challenge to think about what, as we try to attempt to keep this as concise as possible, but there are several things that are worthy of note. First, Smart Video Project. Lovejoy has been identified as one of only 50 districts around the globe and only 10 in the United States that have been identified to be a part of a project from Smart Videos. You know, we have smart boards in all of our K-6 classrooms and in some of our specific middle school and high school classrooms as well. So Smart Video approached us about really featuring one of our teachers, and it was very challenging to pick one, but we've identified Darla Emerson at the high school, our AP statistics teacher, because of what she does to really connect with students. And the theme behind the project is SMART is definitely a valuable resource and tool for teachers, but it's similar to what we heard tonight. It's the heart of what our teachers do. It's the care and commitment that they bring to the classroom each and every day, and utilizing whatever resources to support student learning. That's really on the side of really the care and commitment that our teachers bring to what they do each and every day for our students. So we're excited about the Smart Video project. We're still working through some of the video permission forms, but we're getting that finalized tomorrow. So really we anticipate within the next 2 weeks they'll be here and conducting that video production. We provided Go Guardian training and integration at our campuses. Go Guardian, if you'll remember, is part of our safety and security features. It allows campuses to monitor keywords that may indicate self-harm or harm to others when students are searching online or communicating with one another through the Google Chrome browser. And so we've had several instances where a student might be looking at something online, and high school administrator or middle school administrator, even all the way down through our other campuses as well, K through 6, able to act promptly around any concerning language that might be being used or searched online. We're continuing to implement our reading academies. If you'll recall, that's required training from the state for all K through 3 teachers. This year we're training all of our kinder, first, and second grade teachers. They're doing 90 minutes of professional development each week, and now individual coaching sessions. Both Holly and Wendy are participating in that training as well to really walk that with their teachers and, of course, get a great sense of those literacy skills and what's being built in the classroom. It's been delivered to us from the state, and so there's not a lot of differentiation or adjustments we can make, but we are exploring all kinds of opportunities to adjust the pace and go, of course, go deeper so our teachers really benefit from the training. Modeling and coaching implementation around MClass and DRA assessments. Those are both math and reading assessments that are conducted in our classroom. And it's really just part of this continual effort that we have to get to know our students, not only in terms of their passions and interests, but any academic performance areas that would help us do a better job differentiating their instruction and supporting their learning needs. All of this really just part and parcel of continuing to support our teachers with attending planning sessions, data meetings, coaching teachers, answering teacher questions, mentoring new teachers, both new to the profession or just new to the district. In addition to that, we've revised all of our kindergarten through 4th grade report cards. As you recall, those are all standards-based report cards. that really our teachers provide tremendous input into each year so that we really fine tune and hone those to be the best communication tool to parents about their child's progress as possible. Those have all been updated based on teacher input and really honing the standards as well. We had our first Destination Imagination Parent Information Meeting on the 22nd, just a few days ago. Destination Imagination is a parent-led opportunity for our students to do problem solving and creative teamwork. It's a fantastic program, and it's parent-led, and so we're really spearheading that to try and gather parent interest. We had about 13 parents show up to the meeting and participate and really have expressed strong interest in leading a team this year. We finalized the hiring of all of our professional staff. We've got one high school counselor that we're still working through questions and transition issues with bringing her on board, but we're excited that we would really complete both counseling as well as classroom teaching positions being filled for every campus in the district. We completed our annual audit, which is of course primarily a financial audit, but there are some aspects of it which address human resources. Identified employee files are pulled by the auditors to make sure that all documents are up to date and current, and so as part of the final audit, that's certainly a part of what they're reviewing as well. The last two are really just a couple of great fine arts updates. Both programs, both middle school and high school theater, have held auditions for their first shows of the season. LHS opening show, The Lost Boy, was performed this past weekend, September 24th and 25th. Fantastic production. And the LHS choir is preparing for their TMEA all-region auditions, and those actually begin tomorrow. So lots of fantastic things going on within curriculum and instruction.
So good evening, everyone. We wanted to provide a brief update on finance and operations. Oh, sorry, went too fast. So you will notice in your book and on the agenda online, the monthly financials are included. I know several people are anxious to hear about what our financial state is right now. As you will hear from probably any school district finance officer trying to piece together what this year is going to look like, it is a bit challenging. But our month one financials are included in your packet. Obviously, that just comprises the month of July. So at that point, we had expended or realized 3% of our general fund revenue and expended 2.7% of our expenditures. That doesn't give us a very full picture yet. Obviously, in July, we're still getting people in place before a lot of those things occur. So it's just kind of a little bit early. But as we look at those items, there's one missing in here. But we are looking at our revenue pretty closely. You'll see a slide in there on our major fund revenue. So as we look at this year, we're looking a lot at general fund, student nutrition, and our debt service fund and what revenue we've realized to date versus our budget. Obviously, our goal is to increase our revenue or at least realize what was budgeted. As we look at those big pieces, we've gone through a review process by which I pulled any significant revenue budgets that were large enough to impact us financially or were varied from the prior year significantly enough that we wanted to go ahead and review those. So that's what you see on this slide. We've already completed about half of the review of these items. Obviously, we entered into several different programs this year compared to prior year in an effort to generate revenue. Now that we're in that process for a month or two, we really want to take another look at that before we get any further into the year. So those are just some of the items that we're looking at. We don't necessarily know. I heard somebody the head of the Center of School Finance earlier today talk about the challenges this year and looking at how do we play the game when we don't know how they're keeping score. But you know what, I don't really care how they're keeping score. We're going to play it as hard as we can on every avenue because we have to. So while we're looking at those pieces, obviously you probably saw the largest chunk of our revenue is generated based on our enrollment. So it's actually generated from our ADA. So I threw some numbers up here just so you are fully aware. Our budget was built based on an enrollment of 4,374 students at a rate of 97% attendance for an average daily attendance of 4,243. What was submitted to TEA and our pupil projections for this year was an ADA of 4,165. What does that mean? That means we get slow money from the state this year compared to what our budget was. So cash flow continues to be something we have to monitor continually. I tried my best to project the future. So if we look at our enrollment currently, it's about 4,329 the last time I pulled that report. Traditionally and historically, our attendance rate is around 96%. Obviously, most recently, it's been 94%, which is problematic, but in hopes that we might be able to recover to our former levels. If I base our projection on a 96% attendance on our current enrollment, our ADA would be 4,156 students. That's going to be a loss of 45 students of enrollment and 87 students in ADA. And I really didn't intend for that bottom to be dark, but it appears to be that way. What that means is essentially right out the gate, a loss of $535,920 in our basic allotment compared to what was budgeted that we're operating under for this current year. That is dependent on state action. There's a lot of conversation. They've indicated they're not really excited about doing a hold harmless, but there's a lot of murmuring, and that's really all we know right now related to that. We've obviously had a decline in enrollment, and usually they're not making up for that piece of it, and we're just staying tuned for the rest of it. That being said, we really want to make some concerted efforts around communicating the importance of attendance. And I know as the finance officer, I talk a lot about funding, but really it's important for every aspect of the child. They can't be learning if they're not there engaging in that process. So we worked closely with the Student Services Group. Nancy Lessner's done a great job of putting together some information to share out. We were focused certainly on the socioeconomic form. And so once that's complete, our next step is really getting communication out to parents on the importance of attendance. Just simple things like, if we alter our attendance percentage by 3%, that's $800,000. People don't realize, one student one day may not be a big deal, but it certainly adds up over time. And if we can just have them in at 10 a.m., that helps. So some of those tips and tricks will be information that we share out to try to help people understand how attendance impacts not only the learning, but our recording with the state.
Dr. Duplessis, did you want to maybe explain that 10 a.m. comment?
Yes, so essentially that's when our roll is taken around about 10 a.m. It may be a few minutes before, a few minutes after. So that's when that is recorded by the teacher. So that being said, if there are appointments or things of that nature that students need to be out for, ideally we would like them to be present during that recording. And so the communication that will go out will have a lot more detail related to some of those aspects as well. And Lori and I have been very busy, so I didn't know she was going to talk about this. It has really been a team effort. They did a great job with getting the information out about economically disadvantaged identification through the socioeconomic form. There are a lot of benefits to families. One of the things that was mentioned earlier was the loss of income, and unfortunately, some folks are facing that. We had a recent communication with a parent who had no idea that this ever existed because they never really had to know. But through unfortunate circumstances, their incomes dropped dramatically. So this communication is really important to make sure that we're reaching everybody that we can, and they are benefiting from all of the things that they can have as a result of having that form completed for their family. So that being said, these are the numbers. You can tell he knows the numbers. These are the allotments that we receive that are partially calculated based on our number of economically disadvantaged students. So it also affects our accountability. So there's several aspects that are important around that. And of course, our snapshot date this year, fall snapshot, is October 29th. So we want to make sure that we get those students into that part of the reporting. So this I thought was a fun pictorial of everybody who's involved with this process. And she'll probably kill me if she sees this later. I started to put Nancy Lessner's picture right smack dab in the middle of that circle because she's having to coordinate with a number of us to make all this happen. It really has gone above and beyond to try to make it easy for parents, whether it's a Google form or something of that nature, so it's easier to complete. But you've probably seen that information out there already. I want to thank the principals for also including that in their newsletters. We know parents are busy, so the more you see that, the more likely you are to take notice and respond. So I will say we have good news. Thank you, Matt, for putting this together. I didn't know you were going to be here. So Matt ran some numbers for us on the economically disadvantaged identification and the percentages compared last year to this year. So we're doing pretty good. Basically what this tells us is we've actually identified a slightly higher percentage of students through the process this year than we did last year. And if you don't know anything about the free and reduced lunch application process, it can be a little bit difficult for parents to navigate. It takes a lot of time for our student nutrition department to do their piece with that for our elementary and intermediate school level, and then to triangulate that across the board to middle school and high school. So I'm very happy to see this. It means that we haven't lost any traction with the difference in how we have to gather that information this year. So that being said, one of the revenue pieces that we're looking at is student nutrition. Obviously last year, the last 2 years, districts across the state have suffered from lower revenue just because kids were not in school and so weren't purchasing meals. But at the same time, we still had to operate the same departments and oftentimes had some extra challenges with meal distribution and things of that nature that we didn't face before. So this chart indicates year over year our average meal percent participation in August. So obviously last year there was only curbside and grab and go, so that's not the best comparison. But percentage wise across the board as a district, our participation has increased slightly in August. So happy to see that because we do need to do some recovery in terms of getting our student nutrition operation back in the black like all districts are trying to do right now. So this is a little bit more difficult to see, but the participation rates by school are demonstrated here. So essentially, if you kind of try to track back to 2019 and then look forward to 2021, you can see that we're increasing at the lower grade levels, slightly decreased at the secondary levels. Right now, if you don't have a kid in elementary or intermediate, you may not realize that you don't have to pay for meals. Please get the meals. You don't have to pay for them. As a mom, I can tell you it's super convenient. It also helps us out from a revenue perspective. So having those opportunities was good timing for us. We have had some challenges on some of the other grade levels, but this is our total revenue August over August for the prior 5 years. So we are making some really good traction. Obviously that K-6 number reflects that federal reimbursement for the opportunity we have to provide no-cost meals to kids at those campuses. So that's a great thing. And then you'll see each chart, these are the elementary and intermediate levels. So you see a big jump in the revenue and not quite as big of a jump and a slight decrease at the high school. We are having some challenges in terms of keeping staffed up, and because our high school program specifically offers so many different meal options, we've had to pare down a little bit on that. But no worries, Chick-fil-A sandwiches are here, right, Matt? So we're still providing really great things, and we'll be able to make adjustments as we're able to fill up throughout the remainder of the year. But we did have a few wrinkles in that kind of muddy process of budgeting for this year. Last spring, concession stands weren't really planned for, so that was something that we had to kind of just ramp up and set up a budget for and get running. So the student nutrition team did a great job of pulling that together. There have been a lot of supply chain challenges and cost increases. Some of the line item food costs have increased 10%. I've joked that every day should be manager's choice day because sometimes you just don't know what you're going to get in a commodity shipment and what's going to come through and what's not. But they've done a great job of rolling with what they have. They submitted an equipment grant application. So we'll keep our fingers crossed that maybe some of that small equipment we were able to submit through the grant comes through. We are looking at an opportunity to recode our secondary program. At the middle school and high school, we do not participate in the National School Lunch Program. That being said, we can code that as a separate program outside of the National School Lunch Program, which would mean if we are able to run at a profit, we can keep it. So that's something that we'll be meeting about later this week and kind of planning towards recoding some of those things, and maybe we'll be able to modify that to some degree. Last note, which you'll probably hear more about in coming weeks, months, is that our meal price has not changed for 10 years. I was absolutely shocked when I saw that. So that's something we think that we really need to take a close look at. We are provided with a calculator from TDA to look at our meal prices, especially with this year being a year in which a lot of those elementary and intermediate meals are no cost to families. It's probably a good year to look at that. So that's something we'll probably be bringing forward at some point. In my prior experience, I've never gone that long without changing a meal price. So as far as other finance developments, we are proceeding with the $5 million bond sale as we discussed in earlier board meetings. We've had some rating calls. That's the whole timeline from beginning to end. We'll close in November. We did, this was fresh off the press. I was a little nervous when I put it in the slide in case it didn't get finalized today. But we have received our Moody's rating, and we did go ahead and do S&P. I think last bond sale, we only did Moody's. But I felt, given the current circumstance, it was probably worthwhile to have both rating agencies evaluate the district and get their feedback. So our 2019 rating was a AA2 from Moody's, and it was maintained at that. That was my goal, was not to have it lowered. So that's good. The S&P rating we didn't pursue in 2019, but last time was a AA minus. We did receive that late this afternoon and has maintained the same rating this year. What I really appreciate out of those rating processes, it's a lot of work, but we do get some good feedback. So this is just a snapshot from Moody's credit analysis, but essentially we do have a bit of a high debt load. That's not uncommon for districts in Texas that have had fast growth in recent years. So those fixed costs due to that recent fast growth are just going to take time. We did receive very positive feedback on our debt strategies, which were to early pay off debt. We've kept our tax rate stable, but we've also been able to shorten the maturities of several of our bonds. So recently the board approved a refunding and also shortened the maturity of some of that debt. So that is going to benefit us in the long run in terms of how the rating agencies view the district's portfolio. The last thing they did caution was on increases to expenditures or decreases in fund balance or cash flow issues. So they kind of give you factors that could improve your rating, which would be the early payoff of debt and things that we're doing like that, but then also the cautionary notes of what could decrease your rating. So that's just good feedback for us to have and kind of look at as we move forward. The legislative update, so y'all might have heard a little bit about tax compression. Senate Bill 1 passed last Wednesday. Quite the conversation was around the fact that the tax compression offered by the legislation was temporary. So that's caused a little bit of discussion around that. What that would look like for us as a district if it does pass is that TEA will pay 6 cents of our property tax reduction with the state aid. And in 22, next fiscal year, our maximum compressed rate would be lowered. And the unfortunate part of that being temporary is that then our rates would revert back to current law that we're under right now in 2023. I thought it interesting too that if this passes through the House, that it would require all of our school tax bills to include information on rate reduction provided by the legislature. So we get to do free advertising on behalf of the legislature for what they do to compress the tax rate. But in 2023, I'm not sure that that would be viewed as well if it were temporary. So we're just going to wait and see what happens with that. The interesting wrinkle with that is school districts essentially are not allowed to pass a VATRE in 2022, and that was probably one of the most difficult conversations. A VATRE doesn't necessarily benefit Lovejoy very much because we are a recapture district, but it kind of ties the hands of a lot of districts that were considering that local choice to raise their tax rate to generate more funds. In essence, with the possible reversion back to current law in 23, essentially nobody's going to be able to pass a VATRE that year either. So we're just watching to see what happens with that. Right now, it doesn't necessarily affect Lovejoy. We won't have a significant effect on our INS rate. And if we consider new bonds, that's not impacted. Only the VATREs are. So the bill is moving to the House along with information on dogs and bail and lots more special sessions. We try to stay tuned to those items just so we can kind of be prepared and bring you any information that we may hear about from a school district perspective. So that being said, hopefully by the end of this month, in a few days, we'll have our ESSER supplemental NOGA that will allow us to continue our planning. I was surprised nobody asked. The ESSER supplemental is what we'll be using to fund the supplemental pay that we'll be issuing in November. And we're excited to do that. We're excited that it's going to give an opportunity to get that funding early before the holidays as well. We will have a January, February timeframe where we'll get a final allocation from TEA. Those never vary very much from the initial, but that's just part of the process. So in the October board meeting, we'll bring before you the audit report. The auditor will come and present that to you. We'll certify the tax roll and we'll review the first accountability rating. And then in November, that's when we really want to take what the auditors brought back to us and begin to really dive into projections, board goals, and the development of the Financial Futures Committee. I think that's all I have unless there are any questions.
So you talked about the surprise on, you said there was no budget for concessions. Are there other surprises that of no budget? I mean, you said there've been a couple of times where we've been surprised over, there was a surprise about the no step not being transparent. Now surprise about this. Are there, I guess maybe a better way of asking, where are we in the zero-based budgeting process that we talked about previously so that we can make sure that there aren't future surprises?
Well, the zero-based budgeting, of course, would be for the 22-23 school year, right?
So surprises could continue happening this year, or?
That's a great question, and that's essentially why, I mean, a revenue review like I just talked about is not normal, really. I mean, normally just where if I had been here in the spring, I would know what we built those revenue budgets on. I could explain why we came up with those numbers. But that's essentially why we're tearing apart the budget that we're currently under and saying, are these numbers accurate? And the cabinet members have been helping me with some of the areas that I may not be as familiar with. So for example, for athletics or the LCDC program over here, what do we think is really going to happen compared to what number might have been plugged in there last year? So there are a few things we're looking at and just further review. I think probably the most concerning really from a big picture perspective of what could impact the district is going to be that pupil projection estimate that was given to the state versus our budget.
Why is that different? Why is the number different that was given to the state versus our enrollment projection?
That's a great question.
Did you want to, Dr. Duplessis, you made a comment about when that revenue difference would be realized. Did you want to explain that though a little bit?
Yes. So essentially the state provides that state aid amount for us intermittently throughout the year. And then in September, we have a settle up. So this September, right now, we just got our near final settle up. So we'll be making that adjustments with the state. Last year, we're actually probably going to have to pay out a little more this year at the near final settle up. Next year, because if we end up with that pupil projection being submitted to the state being lower, if we're at the projection that I just shared with you, we'll get less money throughout the year and more money at that September settle up. So it's always a little bit of a crystal ball, and I don't think anybody really anticipated COVID continuing this year necessarily. In fact, I've had some pretty pointed conversations with demographers last spring about, how do we know everybody's going to come back? Because most demographers were saying everybody is, but we really didn't know. That being said, though, usually there's a rich conversation around that as an administrative team and kind of a determination of what you think the demographers are seeing, what the campuses are seeing, and then that number is usually reflected in the pupil projection that's submitted to the state as well as the budget, and they're all kind of in alignment, if that makes sense.
So the September you were talking about, it's actually September 2022 is the settle. So we're settling in September 2021. We're settling last year's budget.
Correct.
Correct.
That's correct.
So the zero-based process for the following year, has that started?
We have started initial planning administratively. One key component to that is obviously going to be our Senior Director of Financial Sustainability. And you all will be receiving kind of concrete updates along the way. It was critical, of course, that we let staff get the school year started, that we get through the financial audit so that we have that information. And then what Dr. Duplessis is doing right now with really getting an accurate understanding of those revenue estimates. But yes, we are very committed to that for our 22-23 budget process.
Thank you. So a lot of work obviously has gone on to get us back to a proactive stance.
Yes, lots of sleepless nights putting together information. I'm trying to stay ahead of it. One of the challenges right now is just keeping afloat and making sure that we're monitoring some of those items in the current year, while we also try to figure out how to put practices in place and stakeholder conversations and communications together so that we have a more robust approach for next year.
Great job on the bond rating, getting that behind you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, you want to share your fun thing? Fun thing?
I forgot. Finance was so exciting. I forgot to talk about operations. So side note, September 21st was National IT Professionals Day. Thank you, Jack. He's back there somewhere. So this is what happens when you send a finance person to go take pictures for National IT Professionals Day. I think I have a picture of my finger in front of the camera. So I had to steal some other funny Twitter post to send out. That's some cat wishing everybody National IT Professionals Day. We need them because otherwise we would have terrible pictures of everything and terrible technology. So thank you to those folks. And then this Friday, we're going to celebrate Custodial Appreciation Day a day early. We did get, are expecting a donation this week from one of our suppliers to help us with some of the custodial appreciation, which will be fun. And last but not least, it's the most important part, we are hiring. Student nutrition, technology, custodians, grounds, game concessions. If you don't want to wait in line, you get served pretty quickly if you're behind the counter. So just wanted to mention if you know anybody who's looking for, side gig, temporary, part-time, full-time, we have lots of opportunities available. So just wanted to share that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Ms. Cordell.
Thank you. Yes. Speaking of finance, on Thursday, September 23rd, Dr. Duplessis, Dr. Tinsley, and I were down in Dallas at the TASBO budget cohort, which is a phenomenal opportunity. It is a 30-hour program that we are going to be going through as district leaders that is focused on strong district financial leadership. The content, I think, is going to be incredibly beneficial. It's always a good thing to have that additional learning. But I think even more so, having that opportunity to network and idea share with leaders in other districts. And what is unusual about this cohort that was so positive, it is not just CFOs. It also includes superintendents. It also includes assistant superintendents, and Dr. Tinsley joined us because of her leadership of the area of PEAMS and that deep connection with attendance and enrollment. We already walked away with some additional ideas for our Financial Futures Committee. So we're excited about that ongoing opportunity, and we will share with everybody along the way as we do that. Dr. Tinsley mentioned earlier we had the opportunity on Saturday also to attend a learning opportunity through the Texas School Safety Center, which was great. We've had additional conversations on learnings we can bring back and implement. The theme of the last couple weeks has been community and connection. As I said earlier, I've had an opportunity to get out and talk with each of our faculties on each of our campuses, which I did not enjoy the topic we were having to talk about, but I always enjoy the opportunity to interact with them and really hear what's on their hearts and minds. And also had the opportunity to connect with our PTA boards. We are phenomenally privileged to have the level of parent involvement in our school district, such committed parents who are working so tirelessly on behalf of our staff and our students. Really, really remarkable, and I'm deeply appreciative of them and them giving me that opportunity to connect with them and build that relationship and two-way dialogue. I also this year am hosting a PTO president superintendent meeting every so often to make sure all of our PTO presidents can come, and then they get to ask a couple folks from their PTO board to come attend as well so that we can have conversations. And then the highlight was getting to go on Saturday night to the Lost Boy performance. Our theater group did an amazing job at the high school. And then I know, Mr. Bobo, you got to go to the Golden Triangle in Denton, and was it 4th?
Yes, we received 4th, and I think it was out of 17 bands.
It's incredible.
And these are some of the top bands in the state.
Mm-hmm.
So we did an incredible job. We got some individual accolades, but in terms of the overall, we're 4th, so we got some room for improvement, but they definitely did a great job. The one thing I told her when I texted her the results was it was just so exciting to see those kids together. Mm-hmm. It's been a long time, mm-hmm. and they were all excited just to be together, and you could tell it wasn't just our band, it was every band that was out there. The way the parents were enjoying themselves in the stands and the kids enjoying themselves on the field. So it's wonderful.
Absolutely. We are grateful for the opportunities that we are having, and most grateful for the ones our students are getting to have.
Great. Thank you for the update. All right. Item 17 is public comments related to non-agenda items. Same rules apply. You have 3 minutes. If I warn you, please stop talking. If you're disruptive, I'll have you removed. We're not going to respond to you. So please conduct yourself appropriately.
Mr. Owens, this evening there are 2 public comments in reference to non-agenda items. The first is Amanda Blankenship.
I was late to sign up. Is it on? I was told that I was late to sign up, so give me just a second. I didn't think I was going to get a chance, but since I have the opportunity, I'm just going to speak real quick. I just want to thank you all for everything that we've been doing so far this year. I also want to take just a minute to address how the board looks at everybody and considers all opinions. I want to thank the Medical Advisory Board that you guys have sought counsel for, all of the members, and them providing their expert medical opinions and y'all valuing each and every one. I know in the past, some people may not appreciate or value everybody's opinion that they offer, but I think the people that you chose to be on that committee are in the right to have that opinion. And I want those people to know that we do value that. I'm also going to just pull up an email real quick. And one of the other things, we've touched on it, I believe it was Nancy who mentioned it, saying that, all the COVID rates are decreasing. And as to, today I sent you guys an updated dashboard that I've been putting together, and the numbers are going down significantly. Allen ISD has a percentage of COVID cases of 0.22%. They're not masked. Plano ISD, they currently canceled their mask mandate, and they're down to less than 0.25%. Lovejoy is sitting right there floating around. Nancy also touched on that earlier, that we're down to 0.583%. And to compare that to mass schools, Fort Worth ISD today is at 0.728%. So again, I just want to thank you all for doing what it is that you're doing. I think everybody in the community is having a great time. As to Marvin's point, all of this stuff should have been around for all of our kids forever, and I hope to see it perpetuate and go forward. So that was really it. I just wanted to say thank you, and that's all.
Priscilla Bardwell.
I thought I was too late too. But I had this huge thing to say, but the COVID rates are down and we're just super happy. I wanted to tell the board how much we appreciate y'all for protecting the parents and listening to us and giving us our right to choose. We truly appreciate it. Our kids are super happy. The rates are going down, and we just want to let y'all know how much we love and appreciate y'all. Thank y'all very much.
Aubrey Stock.
Good evening, board. Thank you for giving me a chance. I was 3 minutes late, so I apologize for that. I actually wanted to speak before at the beginning on an agenda item. And so that's what my comments relate to. It's agenda item number 11. I was told when I came in to not, they wouldn't give me a form. So anyway, I appreciate you giving me a couple minutes here. Just to clarify, I know we already talked about this and there was kind of confusion as to when the board was made aware of the no step increase. And I went back, there's a recording of the meeting on June 14th. If you go to the hour and 38-minute mark, Shay has presented the whole budget. And then this is what she states. Your budget includes all the things we discussed. It will also include the compensation plan that is in your consent agenda as presented. It does not include an increase in pay right now for any of our staff. So everyone will be at the same salary that they were in the previous year. Other than that, are there any specific questions that you have? The board did not have any questions for her on this point. And then there was another opportunity later in the meeting where we talked about the consent agenda and President Owen said, does anyone want to pull anything for consideration? No one pulled anything for consideration. There was no questions. So I appreciate the apologies. I think that they're completely sincere, but I think that our board failed to ask questions. If they heard Shay say there's no pay increase, I'm wondering why there wasn't a, wait, are we talking about, what staff are we talking about? We're talking about teachers. Who are we talking about? Let's make sure that we clarify those in public, because what we saw in that meeting, it's on record, there is a recording, was a failure of our board to advocate for teachers, and we can't ask questions during the board meeting. So respectfully, I would just ask that you be better advocates and ask questions in public. Let's have a public discussion. The executive summary says there was a discussion and there wasn't. So let's just make sure that we do that to protect our teachers and fight for our students and be better tomorrow. So thank you for your apology. Let's be better.
Mr. Owens, that concludes the public comments related to non-agenda items.
Thank you. So I did allow for a few of you to speak tonight that were late. If you're standing around talking or whatever, whenever the time is there going forward, I won't allow anyone who's behind, who's after the time to speak regardless. So just know that. But we are here to hear from you guys, and that's our purpose, and that's why I decided to do that tonight. That won't happen again. So just wanted to say thank you to Chris Smith, Mr. Mayfield, Mr. Coachman, Casey Littlefield, the humility that you work with as leaders in our district in the security space, to have obviously every action you take scrutinized, and to humbly serve our district with your heart and your mind, and to work to educate and improve our safety and security. I'm grateful. We're grateful for that. Our community is grateful for it, and we had the best outcome we could hope for from an event like that. Obviously, we learn and we get better every time we do something. So I just want to thank you for serving humbly, being great leaders, and doing what you're doing. I know we've said that a couple of times, probably can't be said enough, so thank you for that. So also want to say thank you to the community for some of the kind words and the positive thoughts that are starting to be conveyed. Words matter, information matters, and we appreciate folks who take their words seriously and who are spending time to lift up our teachers and educators that are serving our district. Also want to give a shout out to our principals again. I've done this once before. Our leaders, our athletic folks, our band teachers, all those folks who are leading in our district. Just thankful for the service you're doing. I don't think it's ever been more challenging to lead and have a good time and keep things positive and move the needle forward with our culture, to become proactive in a time when we're very reactive. It's difficult to keep our eye on the ball, and I just want to thank you for taking time to stay at 10,000 feet, to keep things in perspective, and continue to move things forward towards excellence for our kids. So I just wanted to say that to our folks as well. So those are the only announcements I have tonight, and with that, we'll be adjourned.